Whoa. Huh, there we go. For a second this camera started trying to record in 720p, which it can do, but only in 4-minute intervals. So I had to start over. Today we have to show you a television. Oh boy. I bet you've never seen one of those before, and you would probably never guess that that would be something that I would have on this channel. Now this particular television is the Ölevia 247 FHD T11. As the model number implies, it's a 2 series and it is 47 inches. This will be the largest one that I have so far. I have a 242 S11, which is a 42-inch set. I'm not exactly sure the difference between the T11 and the S11, but I'm sure there's at least some sort of difference. Anyway, this set here is part of the 2 series, so I don't know. They have the 2 series, or the older ones, like back when Syntax owned the company, or not when it was Syntax, before it became merged with Brillian and became Syntax-Brillian. They had the LT and the HV and the LT HV, kind of confusing, but they had those. And then now, or not now, but I mean like this era, they had the 2 series, which most of them were, and then they had the 5 series. And then they had a 7 series. And supposedly there was a 9 series. But I've heard that the 9 series exists, but I have never seen as much of a trace, like any sort of trace that those ever actually existed. Now, I have some 5 series sets. I have a bunch of 2 series sets. I have a couple of the old LTHV sets, and I have one, I forget what that one is, but anyway, point being, I have a lot of them. I would like to find a 7 series. Those are kind of fancy looking. And if they even exist, I would like to find a 9 series. But I think that might have been one of those things that they were about to release and then they kind of disappeared. I also know that they made some LCOS rear projection TVs. And I would love to at least hear from somebody who had one of those. I would at least like to hear from somebody who had one of those. I would like to experience one. I don't know if I would really want to own one because they're kind of large, they're rear projection sets. But I think 47-inch, at least in this era, I know later, like in the 7 series and stuff, they made up to 65-inch in the LCD sets. But the larger ones were covered mostly by the rear projection sets, and I know somebody out there has to still have those, because if you look on eBay right now, there's replacement lamps for sale, and people are buying them, so they wouldn't keep making them and selling them if nobody was buying them. So they're out there somewhere. But what I'm really curious about is, for the main part, most part, before Syntax and Brillian merged, Syntax made LCD TVs under their own name, and Ölevia was like one of their series, kind of like the Sony Bravia. Well, it was the Syntax Ölevia. And then Brillian made rear projection TVs under their own name. And then when they merged, they just branded all of them as Ölevia. So I believe that the LCD sets were done by Syntax, and the rear projection sets were done by Brillian. And I would just be interested to see how the quality and performance is on those. And also if the firmware is the same, because these have some very interesting firmware, and the menu and all that is very interesting on these sets. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this set around to the back, and I'll be right back, and I'll show you. Okay, being one of these Ölevia TVs, these things are heavy. I'll tell you, these things will last forever, really. My mother has, or had, a Sony TV from around 2009 or 10, which failed, and then was replaced with another Sony, which failed, and now there's a shitty Samsung in its place, which is starting to delaminate, the panel is, around the corners. And then my uncle, similar story with Sony and Samsung TVs. I know people who have had large brand TVs, oh, they're great, you know, Sony, da-da-da-da-da, and those things fail. These don't. Like, Ölevia and Syntax Ölevia, or any of these Ölevia sets, are the only LCD TVs worth bothering with. They do occasionally have issues with the capacitors failing on the power supply and backlight inverter board, but everything from that time period does. And unlike those Sony TVs and the Samsungs that I've mentioned, most of those either had a problem with the panel, or a problem that, like, something that isn't really worth fixing because you'd have to swap out the whole board. These things also have modules. It's a mainly modular chassis, even though in these later ones like this it's only 2 main modules, but they're still modular. So you can replace, like in my 242 S11, which outlasted several other sets that replaced it, and it's still going. It had some bad caps in it. I had to replace the main board because the signal processor failed, because for some reason the heatsink came off of it. It was the HDMI signal processor. I think I made a video on that a while back. And I replaced that whole video board for like $20-some, because it's just available. Anyway, we got a full set of inputs, of course. ATSC HD tuner. You've got 2 AV composite ports as well as S-videos. Now, it should be mentioned, and I don't like when they do this, but it's common. AV1 and AV2 can either be composite or S-video, meaning if you have composite hooked up, you're not going to be able to use S-video, and if you have S-video hooked up, you're not going to be able to use composite. So it's one or the other on the same input. Then under that you have 2 component in, YPBPR component. Here we have audio output, which has left, right, and a subwoofer out. Down here we have an earphone, not headphone, but earphone jack, which for some reason is on the back. I wonder... I'm getting a bit sidetracked here. I have my stereo receiver right here. I've got it hooked up. It's got these 2 speakers here, and then I've got a speaker there and a speaker there. And I've got it hooked up to this audio output on the side here, and the volume is all the way at max all the time. And this is an old receiver. It's from like 73, I think. And I have to get up and turn the volume up and down manually. And I would really like if I could just turn this, like, say, halfway up and then control the volume with the remote. And this audio output is not variable. I just sort of realized, I wonder if the headphone audio out is variable, because if it is, I can get an adapter and hook it up to there, and that would be really nice. Anyway, continuing on, optical audio out. We have a firmware upgrade port, which is a USB Type B. We have audio inputs, I think, for the VGA port. Then there's an RS232C, that's a serial port for something. More audio inputs for the HDMI ports, and then the HDMI ports, there's 2 of them. And then way over here we have the power ports. Here's the model number. It's a 247T FHD. But I swear there was a... Oh, here it is. 247 FHD T11 is the actual model number. And this is an earlier one, because it was made in Taiwan, not in Arizona. Which the later ones actually moved from Taiwan to Arizona. Kind of interesting. I also want to mention the speaker on this set, because this is the first, or not the first one. The older Syntax sets had this feature as well, and they got rid of it. And then they put it back on this for some reason, but I have a smaller 5 series set that doesn't have it. If you notice, the speaker is actually removable. You see it's held on by screws here. I don't know if you can see it, I should have shown it before. There's an actual model number on the speaker, and this stand has a back plate. This speaker can be removed, and it just kind of wires up into there. And then there's also a spot here where you can mount speakers on the side. So I'm not entirely sure, because much of the documentation for this stuff is just completely gone, unfortunately. But what I would assume is that you could probably remove this, and maybe there was an option to put speakers on the sides of the set instead. But like I said, I'm not entirely sure. Now this set is in very good condition. There's not a scratch on it, except for this scratch. Actually, I think that might come off. Yeah, that's coming off. Even the sticker is still here, which I really like. You can see this is a green product. It's Energy Star. Now, I don't know how in the hell this got an Energy Star rating, because I measured, this is a 47-inch LCD set, and this thing takes a little over 500 watts. That's only a tiny bit less than my 50-inch plasma set. So this thing is horrible as far as that goes. So I don't know how it got an Energy Star rating, but once again, I don't give a shit about that. It can use as much power as it wants to. High definition television, ATSC, because even though that was federally mandated to be on all television receivers, it's still somehow a feature. HDMI, another thing that if by when this set was made it didn't have HDMI, that's pretty sad. HD built in, whatever that means. It's got big picture technology and director's image, which were something that Ölevia was really pushing at the time. I'm still not completely clear on what they actually do. And it's got Dolby Digital. Great. Now, when I got this set, it was working, and then I brought it home, and it wasn't. No power light or anything. So, being one of these Ölevia sets from this time period, and being myself, you see, when I'm troubleshooting a problem, I like to start at the most difficult thing first, and then slowly work my way to the easier thing that is easier to check and most likely, or more likely to be the case anyway, and then realize that I've wasted my time. So the first thing I thought when this wasn't working was, another one with bad caps, because I have seen them. In fact, my 242S11, which was the first one I had this symptom. It worked just fine. It was working just fine until it got unplugged and moved. And then it failed. It wouldn't turn on anymore, because the caps, for whatever reason, being disconnected from power, that killed it. So I took the back off the set, took the thing completely apart. There's a bunch of shielding around the power supply board, and pull that out. And of course there's no bad capacitors, at least ones that are swelling up, and in this case they normally do swell up. They are all the Capson brand capacitors, so they should probably not be trusted too much, but point being, they were not obviously failed. Look on the backlight inverter. None of those are bad. So okay, let's put the TV back together. And at this point I'm freaking out. Well, not really freaking out. I'm just thinking I'm going to probably have to order another power supply because something has gone terribly wrong. And then it hit me.
Televisions may have a master power switch on the back, next to the power cord receptacle. Please verify the switch is set to the on position. If your television is receiving power, you will see a standby light next to the front power button, indicating that your television is off.
The fucking thing's turned off, isn't it? You see, these have a power switch on the back. All of these have this, and I don't know why I didn't realize it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a power switch right there where the cable goes in, and it was turned off. So I turned it on, and the thing lights up, and it's working perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and demonstrate it. I think I've been talking enough. This set, being a 2 series, it didn't come with a remote, but it would have come with the RC LTL remote. That is their basic remote, which functions. It takes AAA batteries, and it is an remote. They feel okay in your hand. The buttons are a little squishy, but you know, it functions. That's the RC LTL. But what I like to do, anytime I have a 2 series or whatever, if it's somewhere that I'm using it a lot, the RC LTL is a decent remote, but I like to get in a bit of an upgrade, especially in a bedroom or somewhere where it's going to be darker. So, for that, I like to get the RC LTU. Now this is the remote that would come with the 5 and 7 series sets. You can see it's thicker, it's got a better hand feel, the buttons are much more responsive. It takes AA batteries. Oh boy, they're puck cells! Look, puck cells. Look at that. Anyway, it takes AA batteries instead of AAA, and I don't know if you can tell or not, but it lights up. It's backlit, and although you really can't see the numbers or keys here, it's actually a very nice feature. And this, of course, is the remote that would come with the 5 and 7 series sets. So any Syntax-Brillian, this will not work on the older Syntax sets. For those, you need this remote, which is the RC LTS. You can see it says Syntax. For any of the newer Syntax-Brillian made sets, and you can tell just by looking at the sticker on the back of the TV, if it says Syntax, then it's a Syntax set, and then if it says Ölevia, and then underneath that or on top of that Syntax-Brillian, then it's a Syntax-Brillian set. Pretty simple. This is an upgrade that I would recommend. You can get this remote on eBay for probably around $10. Have I done enough rambling yet? Or should I do some more rambling? All of the letters are still here. That's nice. I mean, I've seen them that are missing before. I don't have any personally that are missing, but might as well keep rambling. It's in perfect condition. I peeled the plastic off of here. It was getting sticky. It was a pain in the ass to take off, but it was still on there. The only problem that kind of bothers me is this foot. It's just a little warped right there. And it's not on this side. That bothers me. And I think that was my fault, a result of lifting it up here, setting it sort of like that, and then sort of levering it up, because this thing is quite heavy. Anyway, I really have done enough rambling. Let's go ahead and turn this TV on. The lights dim when it first comes on. And of course, being a modern TV, it takes forever to come on. Let's see here. This is a full 1080p display, full resolution. The smaller ones can display a 1080p picture, but the panels, if it's 32 inches or smaller, are only in 720, the panels themselves. And of course it's going to look like crap on this camera, but this actually looks very good. It's a very nice, bright picture. For an LCD, the black level is decent. Now, I have no idea how many hours are on this set, but I don't imagine it's too many. What I was saying earlier about the firmware is the way these work, when you hit menu, this is the menu. It's like a little circle, and a lot of people hate this. I don't dislike it. I think it's nice. It just takes some getting used to. But what I like about it is, say you go into the picture settings, right, and you're adjusting the brightness, and then it comes over here. It doesn't take up the whole screen. A lot of TVs, the menu is like a big box that takes up the whole screen. If you're lucky, it might be transparent. And say you're trying to adjust the picture, then it's taking up the whole screen and you really can't see what you're adjusting while you're adjusting it. This one you can. And it also, as you can see in adjustments, you can change it. And if you decide, yeah, I don't really like it there, there's this little arrow and you can put it right back to where it was. So that little arrow tells you exactly where it was. It does this for the volume control as well. Maybe it's slightly less useful on the volume control, but I still think that's kind of a neat feature that I've never seen before on any other TV except for Ölevia's. This set does have picture-in-picture, but it's not the best. So to get to that, you have to go to the menu and go down to Screen, and you can go to View. Full screen is regular. You can do split screen, which is this and one other input. This is, I don't know what input it's on right now, but it's on another input and there's no signal there, so it's just blue. Or you can do PIP, which is picture in picture, so here's the big picture, and then down there's your other little picture. I would like to see an adjustment to change the size, because with this big of a screen, that little box in the corner is rather small. Now, split screen I don't really like because it messes up the aspect ratio a lot. I would rather see maybe top and bottom, because you could keep the aspect ratio somewhat okay. And then picture in picture, like I said, I would like to see an adjustment for the smaller picture. Then you can go, let's see here, you go down to, oh, do they have a change? Cropping. No, they do not. I thought aspect ratio, that's just changing the aspect ratio. That's for standard. And then, here's what I'm looking for. Picture source. So you can swap them, which will change it. You can see this one's now in the small window, and this, once again, there's no signal, but it would be the other one, and then you can hit swap again, and of course it will put it back how it was. You can change the main picture source or the sub picture source, this of course being the main picture and that being the sub picture. The one complaint, or not one complaint, but the thing about this that makes it also harder to use is, you can see if I go through them, the options now for sub picture: VGA, Component 2, Component 1, S-Video 2, S-Video 1, Composite, and Tuner, and VGA, and that's it. If I go back up to the main picture, you can see HDMI 1, S-Video, Composite, Tuner, HDMI 2. You might notice something here. I'm going to turn off picture in picture because it's not needed. How do I want to turn it off. Damn it. View. Where is view? Come on. There we go. I'll get to this in a second. So, what I would like to see, or not what I'll get to that in a second. The reason they're only showing that is if you look at the board, physically look at the signal board on these sets. I don't have one readily available, but I do have one somewhere. If you look at the two HDMI ports and trace the traces back, they both go into one chip. There is only a single digital signal processor in these sets, meaning you can switch back and forth between HDMI 1 and 2 as in it's on HDMI 1 now, and here is HDMI 2. You can switch.
The nub of the argument is thus.
Okay then.
Video games are shown.
You can switch back and forth between HDMI 1 and 2, as it will switch back and forth between the two ports. However, since there's only one signal processor for those two ports, they're shared. If you're using picture-in-picture, you cannot have one picture be HDMI 1 and the other one be HDMI 2, as it can only process one HDMI signal at a time. So there's that. So you can only have one digital input. The rest of them must be analog inputs, like composite, S-video, component, any of that. You can have as many of those as you want. And then the other sort of catch here is if you're using, say, an antenna to pick up over-the-air channels, only one of those pictures... The Powerpuff Girls. What the hell? Hold on.
For messing up so bad you created 3 tiny mutant superheroes. And thank you, Mayor. Your incompetence has emboldened so many villains that have given the Powerpuff Girls purpose. Celebrate the Powerpuff Girls' 25th anniversary all this month, only on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next.
Oh, I don't care. Okay, anyway. What was I saying? Oh yeah, there's only one tuner. So if you're using an antenna and you want to use the picture-in-picture, only one of those can be on the tuner. You cannot put, say, channel 11 on one picture and then the sub-picture be another channel that you're picking up over the air. There is only one tuner in this set. Some of the older TVs that had picture-in-picture, if you notice they have more than one antenna input, that's why. This set does not. So you can have HDMI and an analog input, or you can have your tuner and an HDMI, or any of that, but you cannot do both of them HDMI, and you cannot do both of them an over-the-air antenna channel. So the picture-in-picture isn't exactly the most useful. The other thing that I would like to see, like I said, to change this to picture-in-picture, you have to go to Menu, you have to go to Screen, View, and then you have to go down and choose either split screen or picture-in-picture. And then to change it back, you have to do the same thing and then select full screen. I would like to see some sort of button on the remote that would allow you Yeah, there's not one. I wanted to make sure I wasn't talking out of my ass before I said it. I would like to see some sort of button on the remote that you could press to toggle this picture-in-picture on or off. Maybe go into the menu and select split screen or picture-in-picture, and then when you press it, it would toggle it on and off, as opposing to have to go into the menu and select it. So if you set it so that when you use it, you want to use picture-in-picture, or you could select it so you want to use split screen or whatever, you press the button and it would toggle picture-in-picture on, and then it would toggle it back off. A preset that you could just sort of toggle on and off with one button, as opposed to having to go into the menu and turn it on and off. But, I guess it doesn't really matter. I think I've used picture-in-picture on one of these sets once. It's not very commonly used, especially now. I don't even know if you can buy a TV with picture-in-picture. But anyway, that was completely not the point of this video, because this goes for all of these sets, not just this particular one. The sound on this set is also very decent.
That is why I'm not a cat person.
I don't know. I don't think the camera here is gonna. I don't think the camera's gonna pick it up.
Always looks like a
But this sound in this TV is pretty good. This speaker, if you caught the little thing on the back, the sticker, this is an 8-ohm 12-watt speaker, and it's ported, and it's actually two separate ones, and they're ported on the back. So this is basically like a built-in sound bar. So if you connected, say, a subwoofer, that would be even better, but this is basically like a built-in sound bar. It does not sound like, you know, your typical LCD shitty sound. The sound on this set is very good. And I found that even the ones with the built-in speakers, like the 232, that's a 32-inch S12, you know, the 32-inch sets, or even the 247s, which, or sorry, 242s, which is a 24-inch set, the sound on those is very good compared to anything else. They're forward-firing speakers, and they're generally pretty high wattage rating, and they don't get distorted. They might not get the loudest, although they get decently loud as you're ever going to need it. Anyway, I have 38 seconds left before this card runs out of space, and I don't feel like getting another one, so, even though there is one right here. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you if there is a next one.